and welcome to today's Colorado Conversation. I'm Christine Noël. As we welcome in a new month, May is Cystic Fibrosis Awareness Month, and cystic fibrosis is a genetic disorder that impacts and affects the lungs, pancreas, as well as other organs. And today I am joined by two very special guests. One is a mom who is a fierce advocate, and she's made it her mission in the fight against CF. More on her story coming up. But first, I'm joined by Megan Taub. She's Development Director for CFF Rocky Mountain Chapter. Megan, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, this is always a pleasure, so the pleasure is all mine. I want to jump right in. What is cystic fibrosis? Because I feel like it's one of those diagnoses that unless you're directly impacted by it, it's like, what is this?
It is very rare, and you explained it very well, actually. It's a rare genetic disorder that affects almost all organs, but specifically the lungs especially, and the pancreas, making it difficult for people with CF to breathe. And when the CF Foundation was founded in 1955, it was a group of parents who just wanted to see their kids live to even be kids. And now, because of the work of the foundation, not only are a lot of people with CF living to have amazing childhoods, we even have them growing up to be adults, and it's incredible.
It is incredible, the advancements that have been made. Back in 1955, it was almost considered a death sentence. Right? Like kids were not going to be able to get into adulthood. And now we're seeing it was considered a pediatric disorder, right? And now patients are living into their adulthood and they're hitting milestones that they otherwise weren't many years ago.
That's exactly right. And honestly, the population of people living with CF has grown, and that is because more people are living into adulthood. It's been incredible to see over the years of this organization being in existence. But the foundation's not done doing work because there's still no cure for CF, and we want to make sure that everyone who has CF, kids, adults, live long, happy lives.
What does cystic fibrosis, what are the symptoms that present themselves that go, okay, this person is dealing with cystic fibrosis?
That's a great question, because before there was able to be testing and things like that, it was often super hard to know what was going on. So parents would bring in their newborn baby saying, my baby's not gaining weight, and they're eating, and they're sweating a lot. And so things like that were really common symptoms that people were coming in with, and sometimes people would just think, my kid can't get enough nutrients, and it was the cystic fibrosis. And then they would be diagnosed, and most are diagnosed very young because of those symptoms coming on so early.
Which is just so scary and heartbreaking. If you're a first-time parent or even a second-time parent, and you bringing the baby into the world is this major blessing, right, a miracle, and then to be wondering, okay, what is going on? What am I doing wrong? That's so hard. And there's, 40,000 kids every year that are diagnosed?
There are 40,000 people in the United States who have CF right now. Over 700 live in Colorado.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, because we have some of the best care centers that you could possibly have here in Colorado. We are so lucky, which does mean that we have amazing doctors who are working with these parents when they come in really scared. And exactly like you said, a baby coming in is such a blessing. And then if you know something's wrong and you don't know what to do, that is so scary. So that's our job at the CF Foundation and at our care centers, is to try to make sure families have everything they need once they have that diagnosis. And you'll hear from Roxy later how scary that can be, but you can become the biggest advocate and make a huge difference. And I'm excited for you guys to hear about that too.
We got to talk about Colton for a second. We're gonna meet Mom Roxy here in a second. Look at this sweet. He's almost 2.
Almost 2.
Look at these bright blue eyes. He was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis, and a long story that goes with this, but he is an ambassador for the cause. 65 roses. I love the story behind 65 roses.
Yep, 65 roses. So for those of you who haven't heard of cystic fibrosis, it might make sense that especially for kids, it's hard to say.
It doesn't roll off the tongue.
No, not exactly. So one day a kid said 65 roses, and we thought that sounded amazing. So that has been a big part of our organization ever since then. And if you ever want to hear something really cute, though, try to have a small child say cystic fibrosis. It's quite adorable.
It's a lot cuter than me trying to get it out. Oh my gosh, yes. So Colton is so cute, and he has, I just met him a few minutes ago, the biggest, brightest personality, and is the perfect ambassador for the cause. To be an ambassador, what does that entail?
So we actually have ambassadors for the Rocky Mountain chapter every year. And Roxy, Colton's mom, wanted to to get involved, and we already had an ambassador for the 2026 year, but we want people to be involved. If you want to get involved, if you want to help, we want you involved. So we started chatting, and she said, you know, I think something that we can do is to have us share Colton's story, because it is very unique. He has a very rare mutation, which makes things a lot different for him than some people with CF. And so she started writing these monthly newsletters for our monthly donors called Colton's Contributions. And they are just so amazing. He's been writing thank you cards with his handprint. A purple handprint on, I know.
Sweet boy.
I know. If you become a monthly donor, you get one of these. They're pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So.
Well done, Mama. I'm going to tell her that in a minute. But
exactly.
Oh my gosh. Well, this is amazing. We're going to talk more about Colton, the CF Foundation, and also a special event that is happening next week that we can talk about. But Megan, thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you in the last segment to talk more about the event. But really appreciate you advocating for the cause and all that you're doing at the foundation.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having us on.
Yeah. So coming up next, we're going to speak with Roxy. And we're going to hear more about the journey for her son Colton with cystic fibrosis. We'll be right back. Welcome back to today's Colorado Conversation. So glad to have you as always. So May is Cystic Fibrosis Awareness Month, and I am now joined by Roxy Goforth, a mom and an advocate for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. Roxy, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You embarked on a journey that you didn't realize you were going to have to.
Yes.
And then you have been running with it ever since. So let's talk about your beautiful baby boy, Colton. He's going to be 2 in June.
Yes.
Right? Talk about your family's journey with cystic fibrosis.
Sure. So we have an older son who's 6, and he does not have cystic fibrosis. So when we were pregnant with Colton and they did the routine pregnancy screening, I came back negative for all the diseases that they test for. So when Colton was born, everything seemed fine for the first few days. But then he kept losing weight, and I was feeding him nonstop. I just felt like there wasn't a supply issue, there wasn't an eating issue. He was eating nonstop, but losing weight. And at his 2-week checkup, the doctor said, he's in failure to thrive. He's now at the less than 1 percentile of his weight. We need to do something. And they redid his newborn screening, and it came back flagged for cystic fibrosis. So we were very shocked because I was like, I'm not a carrier. So how does he have it? So we were very shocked by his diagnosis, and we didn't receive it until he was 28 days old.
Did you have any idea what CF was at the time?
No.
You're like, okay, so what does this mean now? And Colton being your second son, you know, you're like, I've done this before. I feel like I'm doing this right. What's going on? And then to get a diagnosis like that, what happened after that?
So after we received his diagnosis from the wonderful team at Children's Hospital, they started him on a medication called Creon, which is a pancreatic enzyme that you take orally. And we give that to him now every time he eats, right before he eats. And he started gaining weight like crazy. And we actually had an appointment last week, and we found out that he is above average for weight.
Way to go, buddy.
Yeah. We're very proud of that from where he came from. But since then, I've just been trying to learn as much as I can about cystic fibrosis and just advocate for him and just try to really get it out there of what cystic fibrosis is and that we need a cure for kids like Colton who have rare mutations.
In learning more about his case, he has this rare mutation, because I know there has been advancements in medication and treatment options, but it has made him not exactly a great candidate for some of the medications that are helping other patients with cystic fibrosis.
Correct. So to have cystic fibrosis, you have to have 2 mutations that you inherit from each parent. Both of Colton's mutations are rare, and they're also considered severe. We are unsure if he qualifies for the new medications that are out, but we're in the process of figuring out if he can. He actually had his nasal cells scraped last week and sent to a lab in Cincinnati to see if maybe he would work. Nobody in the world has his 2 mutations together. So we're treading new waters, and he's kind of a guinea pig right now, learning new things.
How is he doing? How are you doing?
We're doing great. We're doing great. A year ago, I was going through it, and I was really struggling emotionally, kind of grieving. But now I feel like we're strong. We have a wonderful, wonderful family support. And Jax is the biggest support. That's our 6-year-old, and he is the best big brother. And we're just really lucky for who we're surrounded by. And I switched from this grieving persona to now this advocating, and I want to help, and I have a child to save. And I always say that Colton has cystic fibrosis, but cystic fibrosis does not have Colton.
I love that, and you should be really proud of yourself.
Thank you.
You know, they say strong like a mother for a reason. Case in point, you know, because when you find out that your child is going through something, you will move the ends, go to the ends earth to make sure that, you know, you do everything in your power to help. And what a time, though, also with, you know, talking to Megan 65, 70 years ago when the foundation was first, you know, in existence. The longevity of life was really short, and now there's more hope than ever. Right? So there's still a long ways to go, but you know, we're in a hopeful spot.
We are, yes. If we were to be born with cystic fibrosis, we're lucky that we're born in this era with where medication is.
Colton, day in and day out, we have some really heartwarming, but also hard pictures to look at. So let's talk about what we're looking at here. Is this his treatment?
Yes. So I have 2 pictures here of his treatments. He does nebulizers, inhalers every single day. This vest that he wears is called a CPT vest, and it shakes him pretty vigorously, actually. And the point is to break up that mucus that he has kind of lodged in his lungs.
Right, because when I first learned about cystic fibrosis, you associate it with lung issues and breathing difficulty, correct?
Exactly, yes.
And so, are those some of his symptoms then?
No, you know, he's actually doing really well so far with his lungs. It's more so his pancreas. His pancreas works fine, however, the ducts are clogged with that mucus. And so that's when the enzymes aren't able to make it to the digestive tract to absorb nutrients, which is why it was a disease that children didn't survive long for, because they were malnourished.
And this, what is this picture? What are we looking at?
So this was actually just last week. We had clinic day at Children's Hospital.
A little bit of a glare, there we go.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
Clinic days, they're pretty lengthy. They last several hours. And so we bring a picnic blanket and toys, and Jax went with us on this one, and that's my husband Bobby was with us, and we just try to make clinic days fun and exciting, and we try to absorb everything that we can on those days.
He's not even 2 yet. Keeping a 19, 20-month-old, entertained for that long is hard, let alone going through the treatment. So what a rock star he is.
Yes, he's incredible. He's incredible. He has the personality to just persevere, and he's very strong-willed. He's second born.
Who does he get that from?
I would say a little bit of both of us, really.
That's a good thing. It's a good thing, especially with with this journey that he's on.
It is, yeah.
Good.
He's lucky that he has who he has around him and the strength that he has within him.
The second I met him, I mean, he just runs up to you with these big blue eyes and big smile, and from the outside, he looks like he's completely healthy, which is probably challenging to kind of describe to other parents and families what is going on with your son.
It is, yes, because he totally acts and eats and sleeps and all the things like a normal 20-month-old does, but his insides aren't normal, and he has that extra mucus. And if you were to kiss his forehead and then lick your lips, they would be extremely salty.
Which is an interesting side effect.
Yes, it is. Well, the salt inside of your cells is, the job is to thin mucus out.
I see.
And since it's not doing that inside his body, it's excreting through his skin.
And that's one of the ways that doctors can tell that it could potentially be cystic fibrosis when they're trying to diagnose what is going on.
Yes.
I'm not surprised to hear that Colton has become an ambassador. You have taken a really active role after his diagnosis in becoming an ambassador yourself and an advocate for the cause, correct? You're like on every meeting, research meeting, you're on the parent advisory board with the hospital.
Yes.
So you're really, I mean, you're diving in.
I am. This is my focus with my family is just to do what we can to get Colton as healthy for as long as we can.
Yeah, and for him to be an ambassador of 65 Roses, what does that entail for him?
So he actually enjoys it. We do we hand write thank you cards to every single donor. And we paint his hand, and he does a handprint on every single card that we send out. And we only do them when he's in a good mood and they're happy. So they're all happy handprints.
Yes.
So he really enjoys that part of his job.
Yeah.
Along with that, I also make Colton's contributions every month, which is a letter that gets sent out to all of the donors.
I love that. I love that, and he's just the perfect ambassador for the foundation. So, what is your hope moving forward with Colton and his journey here?
My hope for Colton is that he lives a life just like any other kid, and that there's no struggle for him, and he's able to experience becoming a parent if he chooses, to have a career that he wants, and to just live a normal life, just like every other child should.
And with the advancements in medication, I know that he has not been considered a good candidate because of his mutation, but there is hope, right, in terms of the medication?
There is hope, and they do have quite a few medications in the pipeline, is what they call it.
Yeah.
And that is what donations go towards to the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, is to try and get these clinical trials pushed through and try out for these new medications for kids or adults who maybe cannot qualify for the current medications that are out.
And there's a foundation walk coming up, which we're going to talk more about in the next segment. But it's so nice to know that when you become aware of something that, unless you're directly involved, you don't really know a ton about, to know where the funds are going. Colton, case in point, I mean, you're a local family, and he has a mutation that no other person that has cystic fibrosis has. So to go, okay, it can happen to any child, could be any one of our children, it's your child, to go, okay, we need help. We need to be able to raise money to help in this fight, and for the next child that's diagnosed that might have another rare mutation.
That's exactly
the other medication that currently is out that is helping other patients is working. That's great, but also more needs to be done.
Exactly,
right?
yes.
Right. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And this is a little flyer of the 2026 ambassador. He's just the cutest. There's your beautiful little family. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to talk about the fundraiser that's coming up and how you can help with the cause coming up right after the break. We are so glad to have you back for today's Colorado Conversation. May is Cystic Fibrosis Awareness Month. I have two lovely ladies that we've been talking about during this entire episode, Megan and Mom Roxy. Thank you so much for both being here and being advocates for the cause. It's just so important that we have these conversations, because for folks that are not directly impacted like your family is, Roxy, we want people to know. What's going on in our community and the resources that are here to help. And let's talk about this really exciting event that's coming up on May 9th.
Yes.
Megan?
So I'm biased. I think this is the best event of the year. On May 9th, we are hosting Denver Great Strides, which is our walk to raise money and awareness for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. It's at Sloan's Lake Park at 9. I know, perfect location,
perfect
right?
Yeah.
And it starts at 9 a.m. We have a fun party, and then everyone gets to walk around the park. We have rest stops so people can get fueled and hydrated, and then come back and celebrate the day and celebrate our kids and adults in attendance who have CF, because they deserve to be celebrated. They work so hard every day.
Oh, no doubt. I'm hoping for good weather.
I'm hoping that too. Can you get everyone
I'll talk to Dave Frazier and see. Like, Dave, let's get on this. There's a really cute name for Colton's walking team, right?
Yes, we are Team Salty Sneakers.
Yeah, I love that. How did you come up with the name?
So a big part of cystic fibrosis is salt, and so it just kind of hit me one day that we're walking, tennis shoes, salt, cystic fibrosis, salty sneakers, and it just kind of hit me.
Salty sneakers. I love that.
Yeah.
What's the next steps here in terms of Colton's journey? We have the walk coming up, but then from there, where do we go?
So we're waiting to hear back from the lab if his cells are compatible with the current medication that is out. Okay. So we're really hopeful for that for him, and if so, he can start taking it right when he turns 2, which will be life-changing literally for him. So we're really hopeful for that. The FDA did expand who can take the current medications, and Colton might be on that list. Okay. So we're just holding on tight for him to see.
Yeah, holding out hope,
yes,
prayers,
we are.
And fingers crossed. And we're right there with you in
Thank
those hopes and dreams too. I'm
Thank
sure that
you.
we'll get there. I mean, literally with the advancements of medicine and the research being done, and with fundraisers like this that are directly funding that research that will help Colton.
Yes, exactly.
Which is why it's so important. And I know that if you can't make the walk on May 9th, there's also other really fun events that the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation hosts, right?
Yes, we love to bring people together to raise funds for the foundation because we are going to find a cure. The Cystic Fibrosis Foundation will not stop until we find a cure for everyone. So in the meantime, we're hosting events like our Colorado Chef's Challenge.
So yummy. Yes, I've been there a few times. The food is chef's kiss, really.
Yes.
It's a good one. We have about 15 local chefs who donate their time and their food, and people come and taste it and get to be the judge of who the best one is at the end of the night, all to raise funds for the foundation. And then if you like a good workout, we on July 26th, it's a Saturday, we're taking over the Rockies Stadium, and people who participate climb up and down all the lower bowl stairs.
Okay.
It's as hard as it sounds, but also to raise funds for the foundation. And then we have an extreme hike and a gala coming up as well.
Yeah, all fun, all for a really worthy cause. We're going to be sure to link that to the video once we post this so you can find more information. But also, is there a website for the foundation?
Yes. CFF.org is our website.
Yeah.
We try to make it as easy as possible. If saying cystic fibrosis is hard,
spelling it's even harder.
Yes.
Let's try to at least get you to our website. And you can find all of our chapters there, including the Rocky Mountain.
One more look at Sweet Colton. If you have a 2-year-old, you understand why he couldn't be with us today.
Yes.
I have a 2-year-old, so I get it. But he's so sweet. This is the sweetest boy. What is sort of the lasting message that you want to leave with our viewers about your son and his journey?
Well, Colton is not the only one who's waiting. There are 10% of people with cystic fibrosis who are still waiting for a medication to help. My hope is that through this and through all of the exciting things that are coming up for the foundation, that we can raise money to help research and to help those people that are still waiting for their lifeboat.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. It's truly a pleasure to talk about Colton. He's the sweetest boy. You're doing a great job. Both of you are doing a wonderful job. And we are here to help however way we can.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, if you want to learn more about how you can support Colton and the foundation, the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, we have, again, CFF.org, and also be posting a link with all of the event details for all the fun events they have coming up this year with this link. But again, thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Colorado Conversation. We'll be sure to see you next time.